Considering how many factors are involved, it's impressive that Polytopia games are generally pretty balanced, providing momentum for the player with a stronger economy and army to make their move, but not overpoweringly so, allowing a sneaky play from the underdog to turn the game around. That's not to say spawn wins don't exist too, but what we'll be exploring here is the complete opposite side of the spectrum: stalemates. Is it possible to get stuck in a stalemate position in Polytopia? Well, after seeing this game from my World Championship Qualifier bracket, it's hard to deny that they do. But before I analyse the replay, let's get our definition straight for exactly what a stalemate is. Generically, it means a situation in which neither group involved can win or get an advantage, and no action can be taken, which works well for the basis of our definition. But unlike real-world diplomacy, Polytopia has rules, so let's look at something even more rigorously defined: the game of chess. In chess, a stalemate occurs when one player physically can't make any move, but I don't really think that applies to Polytopia, because if you can't make a move, you can just pass. There's no kind of one move per turn thing. You can make no moves, you can move everything, it's up to you. But I think the important detail is that this leads to a draw, and their official term stalemate isn't the only way a draw can occur. There are a whole bunch of other ways, which I think are more transferable to Polytopia. So, insufficient material? Not really, you can always just train a new unit. But the 50 move rule and draw by repetition, I think they do apply. Since if the game's been being played out for however many moves and nothing's really happened, then I think that does indicate that you've got to a stalemate. And also repetition, if you're just keep on reversing what you did the last turn and there's no new moves you can make that can better your position, no way you can expand anymore, no way you can start an attack. If the optimal play is always just to do nothing or undo what you've been doing before, then I think that also counts as a stalemate. And then the final way in chess is draw by agreement, which I think would be a great feature in Polytopia. Like, imagine you've been playing for ages, you decide we're completely equal players, we both deserve the win. Let's just say no elo has changed in this game, or it's only changed by a tiny amount in the favour of the player who was ranked lower. Or like, imagine you're completely winning, but just circumstances mean you have to leave. Surely then you should be allowed to offer a draw instead of just resigning or timing out from a winning position. Or what about in team games? Say you're playing a 2v2 and you win. Then what? One of you is going to have to take the in-game elo, and the other is going to be treated as though they lost. Okay, but sorry, I got sidetracked there. Let's get back to the topic of the video: stalemates. So I'd say in Polytopia, not every balanced game is a stalemate. Both players can be perfectly matched, and spawns can be balanced, if that even exists. But if anything dynamic is happening and cities are changing hands, so long as that doesn't keep on reversing, then that's not a stalemate. But if no player can take a move to advantage themselves that changes the overall state of the game, or any offensive move provides no game or even penalises them, then a stalemate has occurred. If you agree with this or think that there's a better definition that could be given, then do give your thoughts in the comments. But now let's take a look at my ridiculous game and decide whether it fits. And also analyse the gameplay, since it was a very interesting game. So before this starts at all, I want to draw your attention to the map, since I believe that the spawn can kind of be used to piece together a picture of what may occur later down the line. And we see that we have the Kiku player in the north has 3 villages, all 3 tiles away. And our other Kiku has 2 villages and 1 ruin. So that's going to be tough for them to get back from, but I think what's more important is how valuable those villages are, since we have one big lake in the centre. Neither of them have access to that from their initial fish, since Kiku always start with fish in their capital. But our Kiku in the north, who also has the extra village, is able to get onto the water far more quickly. In terms of intermediate villages, this one's probably going to go to the one in the north, since our other player has no way of getting onto the water unless they get border growth, which is going to take some time, or reach this city, which is 3, 5, 8 tiles away. So they're probably going to get beaten to it by there. Might be able to get to the one in the corner, depends how they play things. But I just think it's interesting to see, looking at the map before you know anything about either player, anything about their play styles, kind of how the game is going to pan out. Because I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that this player is going to see their opportunities are controlling the lake, and this player is going to find themselves spending much more time on the land and developing things that way. So the spawn can be very important, but all either player can see at the time is their own 25 tiles. And this is me. I'm in the south. I can see that I have 3 fish, but I won't be able to upgrade my capital anytime soon. So I just need to push forward and try and find my early villages. So I think that my best first chance is to head centrally towards that animal there. and I go for riding. So slightly different to the opening they go for, because I take an early explorer, get 5 stars for meeting them, and are able to see that they've gone for a full warrior opening. Unfortunately, I just miss out on the lighthouse. That would have been helpful because I could have upgraded this with Org. I decide to get forestry before capturing, since I have enough stars from the explorer, and I take a workshop as well. Then the turn after, I'll be able to upgrade this with a lumber hut, which I do, and using those extra stars get another rider. However, constantly have my eye on the opponent, who's able to already get onto the water. Fortunately, they started with this village, so they didn't rush to the centre, which I'm glad about. But concerning to see that they already have scout ships. And at the end of turn 7, we've both had the same number of turns. I'm slightly behind on points, and that's because of a city disadvantage. However, I have 4 techs, and interestingly, they only have 2, which I think is the fair play. My opponent played incredibly well, and I think recognised the power that the lake had. And so instead of trying to balance their abilities across getting economy going and getting on the water, exploring around the land, they put their primary focus on spending all of their stars on amassing units and getting them onto the water, being able to explore and prevent me from doing so, which ultimately led to them having that naval advantage. So I'm going to switch back to myself. We both have vision on a fair bit of what's going on for the other, so not too much unknown. However, I'm unfortunate to lose the ruin due to their scouts, so I'm just thinking, how can I get an advantage? I don't have any access to the water. I'd like to soon, but what I recognise is I'm not going to be spending those stars in researching this naval route, so I can instead use those to go for other routes, such as mathematics. And that's able to get me a quicker giant, and with riders I'm able to explore more, so I do pick up this 4th city. And just going back slightly, after taking my giant, I used the Park of Fortune to upgrade and get border growth. Since this has been my game plan from the beginning, if I don't have any direct access to the water, I just absolutely need to rush that as quickly as possible. So my hope from here on turn 9 was get another giant, push him onto the water, and hopefully with the Juggernaut I can overwhelm the weak scouts and rafts which are on the water at the time. However, it wasn't just rafts and scouts that were on the water, since I don't actually know... Yeah, they'd literally just gone straight down to navigation, so not spending any stars on hunting or organisation, any of those other early techs that you may expect. They've recognised the opportunity, and they've acted on it, so getting a really early bomber. Now, this wasn't unknown to me. I'd seen them get the bomber, and I'd seen exactly where it had moved to. However, this ends up becoming a key tile in that I don't have vision on this, and so even though I know exactly where the bomber is, I'm not able to hit it later on when I go for catapults, which you'll see me do here. Bit of a mistake, since, well, I'll let this play out and you'll see that I end up getting hit by splash damage. But it is able to survive, since I then leave a gap and prevent the bomber from being able to do any other damage back to here. And this ends up being a key component of the game. We both recognise our opportunities, and we both recognise that by turn 11 neither of us have too many opportunities to attack, so the best thing that we can do is just try and prevent the other player from attacking. So he goes for bombers and I go for catapults. Both pretty similar units, just the land version and the water version. Both lacking the dash ability and having a range of 3. So what ends up happening is that these battle lines are drawn. I'm safe from these 2 tiles of land, so both a blessing and a curse. I would have really liked a river connecting these, so I could have got straight on the water from my capital. But now that I can't access it, it does actually act as a barrier, so I'm safe on this line 3 away from the water. And we both position units 4 tiles away, so each out of range of each other. Since they don't have dash, neither can move forward and attack, so the only way to hit each other is them by splashing, and me potentially by pushing. So if I were to pop a giant from underneath this catapult, the first thing it would check is, has it moved yet? And if so, it would push it in the direction it's facing. So continue that movement. The opposite actually happens if you pop a giant which an enemy is on, so the enemy will move backwards, so away from the direction they were facing. But since it hasn't moved yet, then it will try and move it towards the centre, which would be fantastic for me because it would effectively allow me to dash. I could move and then attack. But the issue I have is that I still have this fog. So this tile of fog preventing me from getting any access to the bomber, even though I know it's there and I could be in range potentially in the future. I take the lighthouse, and that allows me to upgrade for stars. Just as I was speaking about earlier, had I got this lighthouse, I would have been able to do the same earlier. I get my first giant from this city, which means that I now have 2, and the hope is that I can put them both on the water and start to kind of claw out a space for myself with juggernauts. So the explorer I got here, yeah, annoyingly missing this tile. Had I got this tile, I'd have more options for pushing, as I explained earlier. It's interesting what happens with border cities. So this city ends up being one that they can hold, but they can't really train here later because I'm just constantly able to go in and hit any units that are nearby, and they can defend it from the water. But once I start getting catapults here in the future, I have an easy way to hit it, but I don't have an easy way to take it, since if I take it, it's within range of them. So a city caught between these battle lines kind of becomes pretty useless, unless they can find a way to fortify it and start pushing through, since that would give them momentum to come through and break my condition on the land. But I think that may be coming, so I start to build a defense on here. Yeah, hoping against hopes that I'm able to succeed with my juggernauts, but unfortunately I'm not, so you'll see me get free spirit, and I decide to just turn my juggernaut into stars. So getting 5 stars back, since the game claims they're worth 10. So without the juggernauts as threats, then they're able to safely get lots of bombers. Well, kind of safely. Since that tactic I explained earlier was able to be useful here. So I was able to push the catapult in, and this actually was a pretty safe place to do it, because unlike if I did that from Coco, where there are 2 tiles of water that I could be hit from, this only has 1, which means that the only way that they can retaliate is with a scout on my port or a bomber on one of these tiles. Now, they don't have a bomber on any of these tiles, so the only thing they could do is send in a scout. That's exactly what they do, but because there's only 1 tile, I don't die, and actually end up getting, what's that, 17 stars worth from killing a bomber and 7 from a scout, since they also have the they had to pay for the warriors to go inside them. So that's 24 stars of damage I'm able to get. But 24 stars in a game like this isn't enough to completely turn it around. So I suggest stopping here and taking a look, imagining if you were in my position, what would you do here to turn this game around? And don't say resigning, because this is Gimmy's Forge, and we never resign until we have to. So if you have any ideas, do put them in the comments, but my thoughts here, while they were playing out their turns, was potentially going for knights, because if I could get a knight through, I could actually link it up with a bridge, and there was still fog here. I didn't know what was going on, but say there was a warrior here, I'd be able to chain through the scout, 2 warriors and the bomber. If there was a warrior on the city, I wouldn't be able to, because they are fortified, of course. But still, that'd be significant value I was getting, but not really a game-changing play. Other things that could sneak through? Cloaks. That was a thought I had as well. So I didn't know what was going on in this corner, but maybe because this is a lakes game and there's a border of land, who knows, I could sneak a cloak round. Same on this side, I might be able to get something around the side without them noticing. But both of those would take some time, cloaks more so than knights. But if you have any other thoughts that you think could have won me the game, then I'd be really interested to hear those in the comments. So just more development in their navy. They're connecting up with roads. I'm able to get a hit on the bomber with a juggernaut, but it's not really able to survive for too long. I think I'm able to get one more. Yeah, here I completely forgot that I didn't have sailing, and so instead of moving onto the ocean, then I just stayed put. And right at the end of my turn, I find this night chain. There you'll see I end with a lot of units that still could have moved. And partly that was because there wasn't that much to do with them. But I think it was this stage in the game I found myself timing out a lot more. So having to play quite quickly. I think here again, if I had more time, I would have got the giant. But I ran out just before I had the opportunity to do so. So it was only on the next turn that I took that giant. I'm going to speed through this a bit more, but you'll see not too much change. And I think that's pretty symbolic of a stalemate position, that I can just scroll for a long time and there's not very much that's occurring in the game at all. Since if I scroll all the way back to... There we go, it was turn 11 that I captured my final village. Then the borders have stayed the same, the units have grown in numbers, but positions haven't really changed that much at all. And we can get all the way up to turn 26, and the game's pretty much in the same stage as it was. I'm actually beating them by about 800 points, exactly 800. I have gone for cloaks, so my first one I sent east. It's not able to get through here. So at the time going east was a safe route, but they have vision on my capital, so they knew that I had a cloak, and I guess started to protect their borders since they knew that it could become a threat. So rafts move in, preventing me from moving more. I send my second one west, hoping that it might be able to sneak round, but in the same way they start placing defenders here. Also, before we get to the end, another recognition of my running out of time is this wall here. I can't remember when I get it, but it was right at the end of a turn. I upgraded with my killer monument and didn't have enough time to choose the reward, so the game just randomly gave me one and unfortunately went for the wall. So pretty useless in a game with no offensive play. You'll also see I go for the bridge play. Though not able to do much, I take out 2 scout ships and a warrior, but that's all I can do. Unfortunately, there's nothing in the fog for me to chain through. Then scouts go round as we saw. This, as I explained earlier, is a city which they can't do much from. I have such a line preventing them from training anything, but they also have a line preventing me from making any offensive move. And they've also kept it very low, which means that if I was to set a right, then I'd only produce 2 daggers. And 2 daggers wouldn't really be helpful for me at all, because imagine if either of them spawned here, then they'd just be able to splash and hit my catapults. Actually, thinking about that more, I think they do go where there's the best defense bonus. So they go on the port and... Oh, I don't even have defense bonuses here. So they both spawn on forests, that means, because that's the only one... Oh, I don't have defense bonuses anywhere. That's ridiculous. Okay, so they could spawn here, and if so, then this catapult would be vulnerable. So I try to send it round. They take a defender, which means that they can see that I have a cloak. In a final attempt, I decided to send both round in the hope that one could pass through. But inevitably I realise I'm ahead on score, he has a stronger position, and this game has been going on for 1 hour and 20 minutes, and isn't going to conclude anytime soon, so I step down and offer him this win. But before I end it, I just want to compare it to our definition and decide, does this count as a stalemate? If no player can take a move to advantage themselves that changes the overall state of the game, and any offensive move provides no gain or even penalises them, then a stalemate has occurred. Well, I think for sure that's what's happened here. So if I scroll back all the way, I can go to turn 11, and nothing really changes in terms of the state of borders or anything. And anytime either of us tries to send a unit in, then it just gets automatically hit, so we're actually losing material by attacking. And I'd say the culprit for that is the spawn. Polytopia spawns provide really fun and organic games, but they're not completely equal, and that's part of the fun of it. Like, you have to go down different strategies, you can't just rely on one every time. but sometimes, unfortunately, they do just incentivise too defensive a play style, so no actual gain can be made. Nonetheless, I thoroughly enjoyed playing and reviewing that game, and you are in luck because that was the first of a best of 3. So check out my next video for a review of our subsequent games. Subscribe to Gimli's Forge for more fun videos on Polytopia and other strategy games, and I'll catch you in the next one.